Fede Alvarez absolutely showed his love, respect, and appreciation for the Alien franchise through Alien Romulus, but one character from the movie really proved the mastery of Mr. Alvarez. Of course, the Offspring was brought to life by seamlessly merging iconic elements from Ridley Scott's original films and later entries like Prometheus and Covenant. The creature was born out of spliced DNAs of humans, xenomorphs, and engineers. It's a creature full of bizarre anatomy and dark potential. And all of this happens because of the black goo, that unpredictable substance that ties it all together and also fuels the Offspring's terrifying evolution and mutagenic growth. All of this truly makes the Offspring one of the most terrifying entities in the Alien universe. And here are 15 physiological facts that prove it. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. 1. What exactly is the Offspring? What does it look like? Kay was pregnant, and only Rain knew. Even her brother Tyler was left in the dark, right until the moment when things took a sharp turn and Kay was dragged off by a xenomorph drone to be cocooned. Luckily, Rain, Tyler, and Andy found her alive, though she was in rough shape. The Xeno had used its tail like a hook, impaling her and leaving her bleeding out. That gruesome injury ironically saved her from becoming a host for a chest burster. Things moved fast after that. Rain managed to get Kay onto the Corbellan ship while she herself went back to rescue Andy, who was severely hurt. Kay, meanwhile, was struggling with her injuries and thinking she might not make it. But more than her own life, she was worried about her unborn child. All she wanted was to give her baby a chance. Maybe even a life where the kid could play outside in the sunshine, far away from all this nightmare. It was at that moment Kay remembered the vials of Z01 aboard the Corbellan, the black goo known for its rumored life-giving properties. Desperate, she injected herself, hoping it could save her and her baby. And at first, it seemed like she was lucky. There was no immediate signs of horrendous mutations. But things took a sharp turn once Rain returned. Rain put Kay in a cryopod, but moments later, alarms started blaring. When Rain rushed to check on her, she found Kay now massively pregnant, giving birth to something terrifying. An ovomorph. These things are basically the eggs that hatch facehuggers, but the speed was unbelievable. In mere minutes, the creature inside began to grow and take shape. Rain tried to remove the egg, but it turned acidic and began hatching right before her eyes. What emerged was a hybrid creature, a mix of human, xenomorph, and engineer. It had the proboscis and metallic skeleton of a Xeno, the raw strength and towering size of an engineer, and a disturbingly human curiosity. This creature wasn't done yet. It was just the beginning. Over time, it would evolve and change, becoming something even more dangerous. What started as a desperate act to save her unborn child ended up creating something far more terrifying, a new kind of hybrid that combined the worst traits of all three species. 2. Does the Offspring have an inner jaw like xenomorphs? The Offspring had a retractable, toothed tongue that functioned like a xenomorph's secondary jaw, but it was more flexible and didn't pack the same deadly bite. This strange appendage could be used for feeding from its parent or to attack prey. With a face that was mostly human, the Offspring had an unsettlingly expressive appearance. It could even smile, which made it all the more eerie. Its tongues, though not as strong as a typical Xeno's, was still dangerous, and the blend of human-like features with its predatory nature added a layer of disturbing unpredictability to its behavior. 3. Does Offspring have acidic or corrosive blood? Xenomorphs use their own blood as a corrosive shield, making them extremely tough to kill. Now, let's dig into the details. The exact makeup of their blood is still a mystery, sparking endless debates. Some think it might be sulfuric or hydrofluoric acid, but we're still just guessing. The blood itself is a dull yellow, sometimes with a greenish tint. It's an incredibly powerful acid, but interestingly, it oxidizes quickly when exposed to air, which can sometimes dull its destructive punch. So how does this deadly blood affect the xenomorphs themselves? Many believe they're immune to it, possibly because of some biometallic adaptation. Another theory is that their blood is a heavy fluorine-based compound, which could explain why it reacts so violently to fire. LaSalle Bionational, a research firm from the same universe, has a different idea. They've discovered that xenomorph blood might not just be for defense or attack, it could act as a biological battery. This theory makes sense since xenomorphs don't seem to need oxygen or food in the traditional sense. They might be using their own blood to generate bioelectric energy, powering their survival even in space. However, it seems unlikely that the Offspring's blood was acidic or corrosive. The creature's blood was not corrosive or acidic, but could it mutate you if you came in contact with it? I'll take up that question in another entry. 4. How fast can the Offspring grow? The creature's growth from its fetal state to its adult form was remarkably fast. In order to understand its growth and development, I think it would be prudent to look at its life cycle, which was anything but typical. Its first stage resembled that of a mammalian fetus, but unlike the usual zygote formed from male and female cells, this creature's creation relied on the black goo pathogen, or a more refined form of it, but we'll get to that later. After birth, the offspring emerged encased in an ovomorph-like shell, a feature borrowed from xenomorphs. Inside, a humanoid face stared back. This shell served almost like a surrogate womb, but instead of the amniotic fluid that humans rely on, the offspring was suspended in a concentrated acid bath. When it was born, pushing itself out of Kay's body, rain attempted to destroy the creature, but its acidic form melted right through the floor of the Corbelan, dripping down multiple levels. By the time Rain reached the lower decks, the shell was empty. In a panic, she rushed back at the sound of screams, only to find the offspring now towering over Kay. It had already grown, its appearance an eerie blend of xenomorph, human, and engineer traits. It bore sharp metallic teeth and a long lethal tail, reminiscent of a xenomorph, combined with the raw strength and facial structure of an engineer. Strangely though, this pale, monstrous being had human-like behavior, not compassionate or kind, but filled with a disturbing curiosity and unsettling feeding instincts. 5. How tall is the offspring? Was that the final stage? Or might he grow larger? Well, it's beyond any doubt that the offspring was a towering figure and dwarfed people like Rain, Kay, and Andy. While they weren't the tallest people, it was clear this creature was pushing close to 8 feet in height. Its lean build may have been less bulky than an engineer's, but it seemed like just a matter of time before it would grow broader and more menacing. Now, if you're wondering how tall it truly was, we can look to the actor who brought the offspring to life, Robert Bobrowski. Alien Romulus was Bobrowski's debut acting role, and while he didn't have any lines, his physicality was crucial for portraying Kay's human-alien hybrid. Standing at a towering 7 feet 7 inches in real life, it's likely that the offspring in the film was at least that tall, if not more, once all the prosthetics and CGI were added. So while the exact height isn't confirmed, you can bet this creature's presence was nothing short of towering and terrifying. But I don't think that this was the creature's final form. The creature died early, way too early, so we don't really know what its final form would have been like, but I'm sure there must have been certain changes if it lived longer. I will explain more in the next entry. 6. Does it need breast milk to survive? Does it share an emotional relationship with Kay? Oh, absolutely. The offspring does feed on breast milk, but not in any way you'd expect. This is something totally new for the Alien universe. We've seen plenty of hybrids in comics and films, but never one that behaves like this. While Rain was off hunting for the offspring, it sneaks around and pays a visit to Andy and Kay. First, it quickly disposes of Andy, and then turns its attention to its mother, Kay. What happens next is wild. The offspring, with its unsettling childlike curiosity, gets up close to Kay. Then its proboscis emerges and it starts suckling from her breasts. Yeah, you heard that right. The offspring feeds on its own mother's milk, but here's where it gets stranger. Kay isn't producing regular human milk anymore. Instead, her body is secreting black goo. It's as twisted as it sounds. This is where Romulus gets really interesting. Who would have thought that a xeno-human engineer hybrid would be nourished by black goo breast milk? As soon as the offspring consumes this bizarre, otherworldly milk, it evolves further, like right in front of our eyes. Its tail suddenly grows to full size, signaling it's probably reached its adult form. But here's the real question. Now that Kay is gone, where does the offspring get its nourishment? Does it need to feed at all to survive? Or is there something else keeping it going? There's a lot to unpack here. If we compare the offspring with the newborn from Alien Resurrection, the newborn recognizes Ripley as its mother, rather than the xenomorph queen that just gave birth to it. Here, the hybrid had a greater emotional connect with its presumed mother than the offspring. It doesn't take a Bruce Wayne to figure out that the newborn was more emotionally intelligent and curious than the offspring. 7. Why does the offspring have resemblance to engineers? Does Z01 contain the DNA of engineers and xenomorphs? Alright, before I dive into what exactly happened with Kay and her baby, let's quickly touch on the infamous black goo, aka chemical A03959X.91-15. You might know it by other names like the pathogen, or simply black liquid. This stuff is no joke. It's a viral mutagenic powerhouse, capable of both creating and destroying life on an epic scale. Now, the black goo isn't just some random toxic sludge. It's teeming with microorganisms that give it life, making it a wild mix of biological weapon and life-bringer. It's believed the engineers cooked this up, though some theories out there suggest other origins. Interestingly, a strain of this black goo can even be found in the Xenomorph Queen's royal jelly, and this is what kickstarts the formation of new queens or Praetorians. Remember Michael Fassbinder's David? He studied this stuff for over a decade and came to the conclusion that it's designed to wipe out unwanted life while leaving the planet's geology intact. The goo's mutagenic properties are legendary, causing unpredictable and rapid mutations depending on the host organism's DNA. If that sounds terrifying, it's because it is. What makes it even crazier is that this stuff particularly messes with reproductive cells, meaning the mutations can pass on to future generations, creating some seriously twisted outcomes. And get this, it accelerates healing, but if you've got something like cancer, it can turn your condition lethal in no time. The synthesized version of this black goo, known as Z01, is what Kay injected herself with, hoping it would save her unborn child. But what she didn't fully grasp is that this miracle cure did more than just heal. It started transforming her at a genetic level, completely reshaping her DNA, and more importantly, the DNA of the fetus she was carrying. Essentially, Z01 was rewriting her body's biology to meet the needs of her soon-to-be monstrous offspring. Her entire system adapted to feed and nurture this new hybrid being. Proof? Her breast milk wasn't even milk anymore. It became this eerie black goo. This wasn't some run-of-the-mill mutation. It was as if Kay's body became a biological factory, preparing itself for the arrival of a creature that needed something beyond human nourishment. This isn't just about survival. It's about evolution on steroids, fueled by the raw, unpredictable power of the black goo. Now, as far as the question of xeno and engineer DNA being a part of Z01 is concerned, it seems very likely. You see, the offspring had the features of both engineers and xenos. Z01 mutated Kay's fetus into this monstrosity and was a cross between engineers, xenomorphs, and humans. The compound basically rewrote the genetic makeup of Kay's unborn child to give it the hybrid features and appearance. 8. How different is Offspring from newborn Xenomorph? Who is more powerful? So who would win in a face-off between the newborn and the Offspring, two seriously messed up hybrid creatures from the Alien universe, each with its own unique cocktail of human, xenomorph, and otherworldly features? First, the newborn. This thing's physical form is pretty unusual, but seems more flaccid and less resilient when compared to the body of the offspring. A proof of this was seen in the way their lives ended. In Alien Resurrection, the newborn got sucked into space through a small hole, and in the process, the creature disintegrated into bits and pieces. However, the offspring was way more resilient. It survived space and thousands of tons of space debris. So, resilience-wise, Offspring 1, Newborn 0. Next, the newborn has a face that's more human than Xeno. Eyes, a nose, and a mouth, plus an almost fleshy, pale skin. It lacks some of the key xenomorph traits like the inner jaw, dorsal tubes, and even the signature tail. Instead, it looks more upright and humanoid, though with terrifying strength and durability that far outclass any normal xenomorph. But that's not the case with the Offspring. If the newborn leans more human, the Offspring takes a different approach and mixes in traits of the engineers alongside its xeno roots. Born through a live process, the Offspring immediately comes out tall, close to or taller than even the largest engineers. It keeps the metallic teeth and retractable toothed tongue while sporting armor-like plates and dorsal tubes on its back. What sets the Offspring apart, though, is its rapid growth and constant mutations, thanks to the Z01 pathogen. This gives it a scrawny yet powerful frame, with the ability to bash through metal doors and incapacitate synthetics in seconds. Its mutations happen at lightning speed. Its tail grows to full length within moments, and its body constantly evolves, making it incredibly unpredictable and adaptive. When we compare the two in terms of raw power, the Offspring has the upper hand. While the newborn is no slouch, it's strong, freakishly durable, and terrifyingly human-looking, the Offspring is just more versatile and resilient. Thanks to its engineered DNA and the mutagenic properties of the Z01, the Offspring's abilities seem to grow as it does. It survives in the vacuum of space and shows a level of flexibility that the newborn just doesn't have. Plus, it's constantly adapting and evolving, which gives it a serious edge in terms of both combat and survival. Having said that, I would like to believe that the newborn is more intelligent than the Offspring, which might give the former an upper hand. You see, the newborn is more human-like, and as an infant, it has a childlike curiosity, and would have become more intelligent with time. But the same cannot be said about the Offspring, which was more animalistic, much on the lines of Xenomorphs. And if the Alien movies have taught us one thing, it's that humans kill Xenos. So I think if it's a game of cat and mouse, the Offspring will come close to the intelligence of the newborn, but would win in close combat. 9. Does it have a regenerating ability? While there was no proof in the movie that the Offspring could regenerate, there have been several instances in the comics which go on to show that black goo gives regenerative properties to creatures it infects, even if those creatures are androids. In the Fire and Stone series, which in my opinion is the best saga from the Alien universe, we find this construct named Eldon, who is given a huge dose of the black goo by his scientist friend. Now, Eldon develops several obnoxious features, like growing a maw, etc., but he could also regenerate because of the black goo. Now, since the Offspring is also a product of the black goo, there are high chances that it could have developed regenerative abilities later on. 10. Does it bleed black goo? So instead of the usual greenish acidic blood that xenomorphs are known for, this creature, the Offspring, bled something darker, something eerily similar to the black goo. Near the climax, Rain faces off with it in a desperate struggle. She floods the ship with cryosmoke, freezing everything around her and nearly freezing herself in the process. Just in time, she manages to suit up, unhook the cargo hold, and ejects the Offspring into the vacuum of space. The creature, along with the cargo, crashes onto the rocky terrain below, where Romulus and Remus stations are still slowly disintegrating from earlier explosions. But before this final showdown ended, the Offspring wasn't going down without a fight. It made one last attempt to take Rain out, and while its body was being torn apart by the friction from tons of sand and debris, black liquid, a substance eerily like the infamous black goo, oozed from its wounds as it bled out, showing just how alien and monstrous it really was. 11. If the Offspring bites you, can you get infected and mutated? Once again, there's no proof in the movie about this, but we do have an incident from the Fire and Stone saga. Here, one thing leads to another, and a group of predators find themselves facing Eldon, who has been constantly evolving into something far deadlier with every passing moment. Eldon's transformation reaches a new level when his grotesque maw, placed in his stomach, bites into one of the predators, infecting him with the black liquid. What comes next is a nightmare. The predator mutates into a vicious, cannibalistic monster. This new version of the Yautja is a force of raw destruction, killing everything in sight with zero discrimination or fear. After that indirect exposure to the black goo, the predator transforms into an unrecognizable beast who is driven by sheer power and primal hunger. His eyes turn pitch black. Extra arms sprout from his body. His mandibles multiply to 10, and his height becomes ridiculously exaggerated. This mutated predator was nothing like his kin anymore. He was a walking wrecking machine, able to tear off the limbs of fellow Yautjas with ease. His punches can shatter biohelmets, and the strength in his mandibles is so brutal that they can crush through Yautja skulls like they're nothing. So I believe that a bite from the Offspring would potentially transform you into something nasty, and it is not necessary that this nasty beast would abide by the Offspring. 12. Can Offspring survive in space? We know aliens can handle the vacuum of space like it's no big deal. They didn't even need a ship. They just harden up, maybe cocoon themselves in resin, and survive whatever space throws at them. The hybrid creature, the Offspring, inherited this same trait from its xenomorph lineage. We've already seen how xenomorphs can endure in space, like how the Nostromo alien managed to survive all the way to the Renaissance station. Now, let's not forget the engineered DNA that the Offspring also carry. While it's still unclear whether engineers can survive space without any gear, it wouldn't be a stretch to assume they could handle it too, given their advanced biology. In the movie, when Rain ejects the Offspring into space, she's suited up in full gear. The Offspring, however, faces the raw vacuum of space, not to mention the impact of tons of sand from an alien field. And yet, it's completely unfazed, just as powerful and resilient as it was inside the Corbelan. So whether it's the xenomorph genes or the engineer influence, this hybrid is built to last, even in the harshest conditions space has to offer. 13. Is the Offspring the most powerful hybrid? The new hybrid xenomorph in Alien Romulus is on a whole different level of danger and easily outclasses the original xenomorph. While the standard xeno takes its time to mature, this hybrid speeds up the process, going from a baby encased in an acidic egg to a towering lean predator in no time. It's fast, stealthy, and lethal, slips through the ship's shadows, and picks off its targets with terrifying efficiency. You really get a sense of its raw power when it takes down the android Andy, who, let's not forget, could hold up falling elevators with one hand, with just a single slash to the throat. What makes this hybrid even scarier is its resilience. Its mouth has a hidden claw, much like a Xeno's inner jaw, and it nearly spears Rain with it during a desperate encounter. But the real horror comes from its ability to take punishment. This thing survives being thrown out into the vacuum of space, tossed through an asteroid field, and even getting shredded by tons of sand. Where previous xenomorphs would have been done for, the hybrid holds on, literally, using its tail to stay anchored and continue its assault. It pushes through damage that would have wiped out its predecessors, and is only just barely brought down in the end. This creature's a nightmare, and it's clear that taking it down is no easy feat. 14. Can the Offspring beat predators? Well, predators have a knack for hunting down xenomorphs. That's their way of life, but what they absolutely loathe is a hybrid, which they consider an abomination. This is why they also hate predaliens, which are an abomination to their own race. So when a predator would face off against the Offspring, he would not just look at the Offspring as game, but as something that he truly hates and wants to kill. This would put the Offspring in the line of some berserker rage of the predator, who would use his years of hunting skills to take down the uber-powerful hybrid. However, one cannot deny the fact that the Offspring is a force to reckon with and has the cunning of a xenomorph, if not a human or an engineer. And xenomorphs are known as nature's most efficient killing machines for a reason. While there is no definitive answer to the question of the Offspring beating a predator or a bunch of them, I would put my money on the hunters. 15. Can the Offspring reproduce? So let's see. Diving into the speculative zone here is definitely part of the fun when it comes to creatures like the Offspring. That symbol or shape in the crotch area? It's definitely intriguing, and given the alien biology we've seen, it could absolutely serve as some kind of reproductive mechanism. If we're taking cues from the xenomorph's bizarre and otherworldly approach to reproduction, it wouldn't be too far-fetched to imagine that the Offspring has an equally weird and complex system going on. Maybe those 3 lines signify something like the 3 stages of its reproductive process, or maybe it's just the alien version of armor keeping its essentials safe until it's time to reproduce. Xenomorphs, engineers, and even hybrids don't play by human rules when it comes to biology. So if this creature needs to make sweet love with another hybrid, it's likely going to be as far from conventional as possible. I'd say your assumption about it opening up when needed seems pretty legit. After all, nothing about these creatures is subtle or predictable. It's definitely a weird and eerie feature, whatever it is. Having said that, there's quite a possibility that the offspring might have both male and female reproductive organs which were hidden within its body. You see, although Alien Resurrection doesn't show that the newborn has any male or female traits, Jean-Pierre Jeunet, the film's director, was hell-bent on giving the newborn genitalia. That too, both male and female. However, Fox was not very keen on the idea, and the features were digitally removed later on. And we know that Fede Alvarez has given a nod to nearly all the Alien movies, from Ridley Scott's original to his later prequels, and everything in between. So maybe, just maybe, the offspring might be able to reproduce. But what do you think? So yeah, that was all in this one. Stick around for more because we have tons of new Alien videos lined up. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.